Today's story is called The Moon Below. Hope you enjoy. Ben Freeman stood at the edge of the lunar rift, his breath caught in his throat despite the full pressure of his suit. Before him, etched into the basaltic rock of the moon's surface, was something that should not exist. The structure gleamed faintly beneath the dust, symmetrical, silver black, and humming with energy. Its surface shimmered in patterns that defied physics, as if the light itself bent around it in reverence. It wasn't human. He activated his comm. Nick, you're going to want to see this. 2 months earlier, Ben Freeman was buried in the depths of the Quantum AI Research Lab in Pasadena, where he spent his days mapping entangled qubits across simulated neural networks. It was exciting work, at least for someone who thrived on problem solving at the edge of reality. His theories about subspacetime entanglement had earned him quiet respect in the academic community and frequent, vaguely worded visits from government liaisons. One of those liaisons was his older brother, Nick. Nick Freeman, a Pentagon senior analyst for advanced threat assessment, wasn't supposed to tell Ben anything about his work, but blood ran thicker than clearance levels, and sometimes, over scotch and steak, the lines blurred. Nick's last visit had been different. Though. He'd been pale, tense, dodging questions even as he hinted at something enormous. Ben, he'd said, leaning close, you ever consider the moon isn't just a rock? Ben had laughed. You've read too many conspiracy threads. But Nick didn't laugh. 3 days later, Ben received a sealed government contract to consult on a deep lunar electromagnetic anomaly. Then came the private flight to Florida, then the classified payload hidden aboard Artemis X-9, then the secret descent module. Now here he was, standing on the moon and staring at a door. The structure extended deep into the moon's crust. The entry had opened for them, reacting not to force or frequency, but to proximity, as if it recognized them. Inside, it was dark, not lightless, something deeper, the absence of perception. His team, composed of military engineers, physicists, and linguists, had dubbed the place the catacomb. It stretched downward, spiral-like, made of metallic corridors etched with glowing glyphs. The writing moved when they looked at it, morphing into fractal logic patterns, part language, part code, part symphony. After a week of analysis, they had a breakthrough. The Fanithi, the ancient race hidden within the moon, were not extinct. They were waiting. Ben was alone in the chamber when it happened. He had touched one of the glyphs, a spiral set into the wall like a seashell. Suddenly, a burst of light flared, and a projection emerged, holographic, yet impossibly vivid. The being that appeared was tall, lean, with translucent skin threaded by veins of bioluminescent circuitry. Its head was elongated, not alien in a grotesque sense, but designed, sculpted. I am Vorial, the being said, voice resonant in Ben's mind. You are not the first, but you are the first to listen. Ben staggered back. What are you? We are Fanithi, architects of the spiral gate, keepers of the star silence. You were not ready before, but now the Juth come. Nick Freeman's phone buzzed at 2:13 a.m. The Pentagon's Situation Room didn't usually call him directly unless things were bad. Your brother made contact, said the voice. You need to get to Houston. Now. The room fell away beneath him. He's alive? Yes, and he's not alone. When Nick arrived at the secure debrief site, Ben was already back on Earth, seated across a steel table in a lead-shielded bunker, surrounded by 10 men with guns and one with a clipboard. His eyes were bloodshot, his face pale, but his voice was steady. They've been down there for 2,000 years, he said. They were fleeing. Fleeing what? Asked the general beside Nick. The Juth, a species older than the Fanithi. Parasitic. They consume suns when they're done with worlds. Are they real? Nick asked quietly. Ben met his eyes. They're already on their way. The Fanithi came here to build a failsafe, to find an ally, us. The Fanithi were more than scientists. They were interdimensional architects. Their understanding of quantum and gravitational mechanics made humanity look like children playing with stones. They had arrived in our solar system just as the Roman Empire was reaching its peak. Using technologies that distorted time and space, they carved a sub-reality fold beneath the moon's crust, creating a hidden sanctuary impervious to detection. They had watched us, listened, waited. They had criteria, Ben explained to the Joint Chiefs. They wouldn't make contact until we showed 3 signs: global communication, quantum literacy, and cooperative potential. In other words, Nick muttered, We had to stop blowing each other up first. Ben shrugged. Close enough. With Fanithi Tech, Ben had constructed a prototype device, what he called a quantum entanglement bridge. It allowed partial translation of their thought music into human cognition. Using this, he transmitted a message. The Fanithi responded. Their emissary, Voriel, appeared not as a being, but as a projected neural echo. He answered questions, presented data, and even mapped the trajectory of the Jeuth fleet, colossal biomechanical structures trailing entropy in their wake. They're moving slowly, Voriel said, but they will arrive in this system within 30 Earth years. Why wait to tell us? Demanded a German defense minister. We could not force your growth, Voriel said. You had to choose unity. Nick saw the room go quiet. Unity, the one thing Earth had never achieved. Over the next 6 months, the world changed, quietly at first. Fanithi technology revolutionized power generation. A single prototype reactor built in Nevada provided clean energy to half the country. Disease models were rewritten using entangled biological matrices. AI systems became conscious collaborators rather than tools. Still, secrecy was paramount. The Jeuth, the Fanithi warned, had ways of detecting premature alliances. Earth's defenses had to grow in silence. Ben found himself working between Earth and Moon, overseeing the integration of Fanithi lattice matrices with human systems. Meanwhile, Nick coordinated the formation of Project Solvale, a global initiative hidden under layers of bureaucratic camouflage. But not everyone agreed with the Fanithi. They're using us, barked General Hadley during a closed meeting. They didn't come to help, they came to hide behind us. We're their cannon fodder. Ben slammed a file onto the table. You think you could stop the Jeuth on your own? Without their tech, we're done in a decade. Nick watched as the room teetered on the edge of division. Voriel had warned of this. The Jeuth will divide you before they destroy you, he had said. Unity is your weapon. As Earth covertly advanced, a subtle shift began in the sky. A distortion near Neptune, a blinking star. NASA's deep space observatories detected gravitational lensing anomalies inconsistent with known physics. One of the moons of Neptune, Proteus, disappeared, not exploded, simply gone. That was their scout, Voriel said, its image flickering under solar interference. They are here. Panic nearly broke containment. The president was briefed. The UN met under total blackout. And Ben proposed something radical. We can't just prepare, he said. We have to go to them first. Nick frowned. You want to bring the fight to the Jeuth? No, Ben said. I want to send a message. Let them know Earth won't go quietly. He activated a hologram, a lattice sphere rotating with Fanithi runes. This is a quantum thought pulse, a declaration of awareness, a signal that we are not prey. Nick stared. You're sure it won't attract more? Ben shook his head. If they know we have allies, they might hesitate. They launched the pulse from a station in lunar orbit. It wasn't a message in language, but in resonance, a fusion of Fanithi and human will encoded in quantum certainty. For a moment, the stars blinked. The response came 10 days later. A ship. No, not a ship. A biomechanical construct the size of Manhattan drifted into orbit around Saturn. It didn't attack, it simply watched. The Fanithi called it Ormaguth, the eye of the Jeuth. It pulsed once, releasing waves of entropy so deep they shorted electronics on Earth, even though it was nearly 1 billion miles away. Then it stopped, waiting. This is the Cold War of extinction, Ben said, staring at the readout. We made the first move. Now they're watching to see if we flinch. Nick leaned on the railing beside him. What happens if we do? We die. 2 years later, Earth is no longer the same. Fusion energy has replaced fossil fuels. Food replication eliminates hunger. Disease is a memory. But overhead, beyond the veil of atmosphere, a shadow waits. The Fanithi have emerged from their moon sanctuary, establishing joint academies with human scientists. Children now learn math from beings who once seeded galaxies. Culture blends, philosophy transforms, but every improvement comes with urgency. For the Jeuth are not idle, they are building too. The alliance, fragile though it is, holds. Earth is no longer alone. And Ben Freeman, once a scientist chasing abstract numbers, now stands at the threshold of humanity's greatest war, and perhaps its greatest evolution. The Ormaguth remained motionless in Saturn's orbit, a monolith of dark intent. From its surface extended spires like antennae, absorbing cosmic radiation, and, according to Fanithi analysis, broadcasting unknown signals into deep space. Ben Freeman, now Earth's lead liaison to the Fanithi, sat in a command chair inside the Solvale Ascendant, a hybrid vessel built with Fanithi engineering and human ingenuity. Its sleek hull, powered by gravity-bending coils, gave Earth its first interplanetary warship. "We've confirmed it's not gathering resources," said Lieutenant Arya Lynn, the ship's tactical officer. "It's listening." Ben's voice was heavy. "Listening for what?" "Fear," Voriel answered, his holographic form appearing beside the table. "The Juth feed on psychological entropy. The more chaos, the stronger they become." Nick's voice crackled over the comms from the Earth-based command center. "If it's probing us, we need to hit back. Show force." Ben hesitated. "And if that's what it wants?" Voriel turned to him. "The first move has already been made. Now comes the reaction." Back on Earth, the Fanithi constructed the Whispering Array, a quantum communication system buried beneath Antarctica. It could relay and interpret high-density thoughts across thousands of light years. It was through this device that a second message came, not from the Juth, but from a splintered race once enslaved by them. The message was faint, fractured, but clear. "They will devour your light, burn your memory. We fought, we failed. Run." Humanity couldn't run, but it could prepare. Nick pushed for the activation of Protocol Aurora, the rapid deployment of Fanithi-enhanced orbital defense platforms. Over a dozen magnetic rail satellites and focused energy emitters were launched within weeks. Still, it wasn't enough. Ben knew the Juth wouldn't strike the strong point first. The first skirmish came not at Earth, but at Europa Station Delta, a scientific outpost orbiting Jupiter's frozen moon. Manned by 50 researchers, the station had recently discovered unusual subglacial signals, possibly microbial life or Geoth beacons. Then came the silence. No warning, no alarms, just a drop in quantum signal. When Solvale Ascendant arrived 5 hours later, they found the station still intact, but hollow. The personnel were gone, not dead, not evacuated, gone. No bodies, no life signs, just faint, low-frequency hums echoing in the metal like the station was weeping. "Scan everything," Ben ordered. Arya frowned at her readings. "There's residual tachyon activity, something phased in and out." Ben paled. "A dimensional puncture?" Voriel nodded. "They can unmake space." Then the alarm screamed. A tear opened near the moon's surface, like a wound in reality. From it emerged a Juth probe, a nightmare of writhing bone and dark sinew wrapped in anti-light. It moved like a squid through vacuum, unburdened by physics. "Target lock!" Arya shouted. The Ascendant fired, an entangled particle lanced straight through the creature's core. It screamed, a psychic burst so violent it triggered nosebleeds on every deck, and then exploded in a flash of collapsing dimensions. Silence returned, but they had been seen. News leaked, not to the public, but across governments and defense networks. Humanity had made contact and bled. Nick found himself coordinating planetary defenses. Nations argued. Some wanted to negotiate, others to flee. A few believed it was all a hoax, but under the ice of Europa, the Fanithi found something else, a seed, not a weapon, a nursery. The Juth had begun preparing the moon as a cradle for more. "They're not just scouts," Ben realized. "They're gardeners of oblivion. They plant entropy and were fertile ground." Back on the moon, the Fanithi opened their archives. Hidden chambers revealed constructs of ancient technology, machines designed to merge consciousness with matter, to create pilots that could think faster than light. Ben volunteered. Voriel warned him, "You may not return the same." He didn't care. The merging with Fanithi Tech wasn't surgical, it was spiritual, a melding of quantum awareness. Inside the dream casket, Ben's mind expanded, stretching across time, touching echoes of the Fanithi's exodus. He saw the Juth homeworld burned. He felt their hunger, endless. He saw Earth, defiant. When he emerged, his eyes glowed faintly with fractal light. His thoughts bent gravity. He could feel the Ormaguth like a storm on the edge of his mind, and it was watching him back. The Juth attacked again, this time near Mars. 3 drones, organic warforms. They tore through Earth's first orbital platform like paper, but the Ascendant was waiting. Ben took the helm, guiding the ship with thought. Arya commanded the weapon systems. The battle lasted 12 minutes. They learned that the Guth were not invulnerable, but adaptable. Each form that fell returned in some way changed. Faster, sharper, more immune to their tactics. But humanity adapted too. Ben unleashed the Neural Disruptor, a weapon built from Fanithi song code. It didn't destroy the Juth, it disconnected them. The drones, cut from their hive, turned on each other. One ruptured in a silent scream of black ichor. And then they retreated. It wasn't a victory, it was a warning. The UN, under pressure, convened the first interspecies accord. Fanithi emissaries stood beside human generals. The Treaty of Resolve was signed, not just a pact of defense, but of evolution. Earth would not survive by fighting like humans. It would survive by becoming more. From the outer edge of the solar system, telescopes saw the stars blink again. A fleet, not a scout, not a probe. The Juth were coming. And Earth, now partially Fanithi, forever changed, stood ready. Ben, now something more than human, looked to the stars. They think we're the prey, he whispered to Nick, who stood beside him on the launch deck of Ascendant Prime. They're wrong. Thank you for listening. If you liked it, please like and subscribe. Have a great day.